I'm Christine Frizzell. Well, it's audio from a series of interviews former President Joe Biden believed would remain private. But now the Department of Justice has allowed its release, made public by the Oversight Project, a branch of the conservative think tank, the Heritage Foundation.
The issue was about running for president, which is still very present in everything we're doing.
Former President Joe Biden heard here in an interview from 2017 with his ghostwriter, Mark Zwanitzer, assisting him with his memoir, Promise Me, Dad. With conversations that include multiple references to classified information he apparently had in his home, despite being between his years serving as vice president and president.
Some of this may be classified, so be careful with it. I'm not sure. So this was, early on, in '09, I just found all the classified stuff downstairs.
Some now criticizing these conversations because of Biden's reaction to boxes of classified documents found at Donald Trump's Mar-a-Lago home.
How that could possibly happen, how anyone could be that irresponsible.
The Department of Justice releasing the audio recordings after a long legal battle. Biden spokesperson saying President Biden's conversations for a book a decade ago that discussed his late son are private and were provided to the Department of Justice on the express condition they stay that way. Reversing course and making them public is just the latest example of this administration weaponizing the DOJ for political retribution. In his 2024 report on Joe Biden's handling of classified documents, Special Counsel Robert Hur referred to these interviews, in which he said Biden had diminished faculties and faulty memory.
Was I going to ask you something else? Oh gosh, I can't think what it is.
Democrats at the time criticized Hur's characterization of Biden.
The comments that were made by that prosecutor, gratuitous, inaccurate, and inappropriate.
These recordings are also garnering attention because they occurred in 2017, more than 3 years before Joe Biden would become president. His cognitive abilities as a candidate and as president became the subject of scrutiny, a key reason he ended his re-election bid in 2024. In Washington, I'm Christine Frizzell.
What's up, family? Hit the like button, share this video, subscribe to the channel, and check this out because we got something today that changes the entire conversation about classified documents, about the media, about the justice system, and about who really runs this country. You remember the Mar-a-Lago raid, right? You remember the FBI swarming Donald Trump's home, the news networks running 24-hour coverage, the special counsel, the indictment, the whole production. They spent years telling you Trump was a danger to national security because he had documents at his private residence. They told you it was the gravest offense a former president could commit. And they told you there had to be accountability. Now we got tapes, we got audio, we got Joe Biden on record, on tape, in his own voice, admitting he had classified material after leaving the vice presidency. In the media, crickets. Let's break this down, look at the different perspectives, and then I'll give my thoughts. So here's what happened, all right? I want to break this down in its entirety. This is a BBC report. The BBC reported that the audio recordings Joe Biden fought for years to keep private have finally been released by Republicans in Congress. These tapes come from interviews between Biden and his ghostwriter, Mark Zwanitzer, working on Biden's 2017 memoir, Promise Me, Dad. And on one of those recordings, recorded in February 2017, just 1 month after Biden left the White House, you can hear him say this with his own mouth. I just found all these classified stuff downstairs. Let that sink in. He said it. He admitted it on tape in his own voice. And according to the PBS News report, as you guys can see on the screen, in an October 2016 recording, while Biden was still serving as vice president to Barack Obama, he told Zwanitzer, they didn't even know I had this. He's talking about the White House. The White House didn't know he had classified material. He was hiding it while he was still in office. And then after he left, he found more of it downstairs at his rental home in Virginia. Now, here's the part that really gets me. According to the same PBS report, Biden also told his ghostwriter about a handwritten 40-page memorandum he wrote to the president arguing against deploying additional troops to Afghanistan. He's reading classified information out loud to a ghostwriter, and he's sharing sensitive national security details with someone writing a book. and the classified parts themselves are redacted in both the audio and the transcripts. Redacted, meaning the government had to cover up the secrets he was revealing on tape. This isn't an accusation. This isn't a political hit job. This is his voice and this is his admission. This is the evidence. Now, here's where it gets interesting. Actually, let me ask you a question first. How many news cycles did we get about Trump's documents? How many days, weeks, months of nonstop coverage? How many times did you hear the phrase national security risk attached to Donald Trump's name? Now, how many headlines have you seen about these Biden tapes? I'll wait. The PBS report confirms that special counsel Robert Hur decided in 2024 not to charge Biden for how he handled classified information. In his reasoning, he said he believed a jury would find Biden a sympathetic, well-meaning elderly man with a poor memory. That's the standard. That's the bar. If you are a Democrat, you get the sympathetic, well-meaning defense. If you're Trump, you get the FBI raiding your home while your wife is in a hospital. Real talk, family. This is the moment where the mask comes all the way off. You cannot look at these two situations side by side and tell me the system is fair. You cannot watch Biden say on tape that he found classified stuff downstairs and then watch the media yawn and pretend the system worked, because the system didn't work. The system picked a side. And this is where the bigger conversation comes in, right? Because going back to this BBC report, right? The BBC report notes that Biden's spokesperson, TJ Ducklow, called the release of these tapes just the latest example of this administration weaponizing the Department of Justice for political retribution. Think about that for a second. They're calling it weaponization when the truth comes out. They're calling it political retribution when the public finally gets to hear what their former president said with his own mouth. But when the FBI raided Mar-a-Lago, when they spent millions investigating Trump, when they indicted him on dozens of felony accounts, when they spent years trying to put him in prison, that wasn't weaponization. That was justice, according to them. Now, this is where we go back to another article in regards of NPR, right? The NPR report confirms that Biden personally sued the Justice Department to block the release of these tapes. He fought in court. His lawyers argued that releasing the conversations would, and I quote, constitute an unwarranted invasion of President Biden's privacy. He took it all the way to the appeals court, and according to NPR here, a divided 3-judge panel ruled against him 2-1, finding a substantial public interest in disclosing the material. Even the judges said the public had a right to know. And you know what's wild? 2 of those judges were appointed by Obama and Trump. It wasn't a partisan decision. The law said release them, and Biden still fought it. He only dropped his lawsuit after losing in court. He didn't want you to hear this. Now pause for a second and think about the timeline. These recordings are from 2016, 2017. Biden was vice president and then a private citizen. The classified documents at Mar-a-Lago, Trump was president when those documents were moved. That's the guy they went after. The sitting president who had the authority to declassify anything he wanted. They still raided his home, they still indicted him, and they still tried to destroy him politically. Meanwhile, Biden, who was not president, who had no declassification authority, who was a private citizen writing a memoir, admitted on tape that he had classified material, admitted the White House didn't know he had it, read the classified information out loud to a book writer, and the special counsel said, yeah, he's old and sympathetic. Let's let it go. And the media nodded along. No agenda, no narrative, just receipts. That's what I'm bringing you today. Just the facts, just the audio as you heard it, just what the man said with his own mouth. And let's be real for a second, right? The PBS report also confirms that the Oversight Project, an arm of the Heritage Foundation, released about 3 hours of audio and 117 pages of transcripts with many redactions. 3 hours. Think about how much is on those tapes that we haven't even heard yet. Think about what's under those redactions. The House Oversight Committee says the redactions are intended to cover Biden's disclosure of classified information, quote unquote. They're hiding what he said. They're covering up the secrets he spilled to a ghostwriter. And the same people who scream for Trump's head are silent. Here's what this actually looks like in real life. Imagine you're at work and your boss catches two employees doing the exact same thing, taking company property home without permission. One employee gets fired on the spot, escorted out by security, and the company puts out a press release about how seriously they take theft. The other employee, the boss says, he's a nice guy. He just forgot. Let's not make a big deal out of it. That's what we just watched happen at the highest level of American government. Two former executives, same conduct, right? Well, now we have Donald Trump. He's, currently back into his role of being an executive branch as president. We currently have him as, but radically different outcomes, right? And the people who run the company newsletter, that's the media, they write a front page story about the first guy and a one sentence mention on page 17 about the second guy, and they expect you not to notice, right? An NPR report also confirms something else. The ghostwriter, Mark Schwanzer, actually deleted audio recordings after learning of the special counsel's investigation. Deleted audio recordings. He deleted evidence. The FBI recovered most of it through forensics tools, but portions of a few files appear to be missing. The special counsel considered charging the ghostwriter with obstruction of justice, but declined. Why? Because they said the evidence fell short of proving he intended to impede the investigation. He gave, and I quote, plausible, innocent reasons for deleting the recordings. Plausible, innocent reasons. You delete evidence in a federal investigation and you get plausible, innocent reasons. But if you're Trump and you return documents when asked, you get 40 felony accounts. This is not a justice system anymore. This is a protection racket with a gavel and a seal. And this is where the bigger conversation starts to come in. We're not just talking about Joe Biden's memory or his handling of documents. We're talking about rather America still has one set of rules for everybody. We're talking about rather the media is a news organization or a political protection agency. We're talking about whether the Justice Department serves the law or serves the party. Because if the system can protect a sitting president, who admitted on tape to having classified material, and can prosecute a former president at the time before he became our current president again, President Trump, who returned everything when asked, then the system is broken, not bent, broken. And the people who broke it are the ones telling you to trust it. Now, to be fair, I want to acknowledge what Biden's team would say. They would tell you that Biden cooperated with the investigation. They would tell you he sat for interviews. He turned over documents. He didn't hide anything. And that's true to a point. He did cooperate after he got caught. But let's not forget that he also fought like crazy to keep these tapes from seeing the light of day. He sued. He appealed. He used every legal tool available to keep the American people from hearing what he said. That's not the behavior of someone who has nothing to hide. That's the behavior of someone who knows exactly what's on those recordings and doesn't want you to hear it. And now that you heard it, we understand why he admitted it on tape in his own voice. I just found all the classified stuff downstairs. There's no spin. There's no context. There's no explanation that makes that sound better. He had classified material. He knew he had it, and he told a book writer about it. Think about it from an everyday perspective. If you work in a job where you handle sensitive information and you take that information home and your boss find out, you're getting fired. You might get sued and you might lose your security clearance. You might face criminal charges. That's how it works for regular people, right? But for the political class, for the connected, for the people the media likes, there's always an excuse. There's always a reason why it's different for them. And this is why regular Americans are checking out of the system. This is why trust in institutions is at an all-time low. I mean, I don't have to say it. It's self-evident. It's self-evidentiary, right? Self-explanatory with the mainstream liberal media. We don't even trust the CNNs, the MSNBCs, now known as MS Now, the ABCs, networks with the lunch ladies, the View on there, right? A lot of individuals would say, as CNN with their slogan, the most trusted news, would say the most news full of foolery and propaganda. You got the Dana Bash and the Abby Phillips, as they would say, as a lot of Americans would say, is my point. Because people aren't stupid. They can see the difference. They can hear the tape. They know what they're being asked to believe, and they know it doesn't add up. Right? So you see in the articles, and this is just another article that I came across from Channel 11, a NBC News channel station in Baltimore, Maryland. So it is even saying newly released Biden audio recordings include references to classified material struggles with memory. And this is the guy right here on the screen, the ghostwriter, Mark Swanzer, as you see sitting there with his eyes all stiff like an owl, right? So here's my take, family. From my perspective, this is one of the clearest examples of a two-tiered justice system that we've ever seen. And I'm not saying that to be dramatic. I'm saying it because the evidence is sitting right in front of us. You got a former vice president on tape admitting he had classified material, admitting the White House didn't know about it, reading classified information to book a writer, and a special counsel says no charges because he's a sympathetic old man with a bad memory. You got a former president, who's now our current president, again, President Trump, who returned documents when asked, who had the authority to declassify them in the first place, because he was a president at the time when he had this classified information, and they raided his home, indicted him, and spent years trying to put him in prison. Those are the facts. Those are the receipts. And the only way you can look at those two situations and say the system is fair is if you're not paying attention or you don't want to see it. Now, let me leave you with something to think about. The Bible talks about this exact kind of situation in Matthew chapter 7, verses 3-5. Jesus says, "Why do you look at the speck of sawdust in your brother's eye and pay no attention to the plank in your own eye? How can you say to your brother, 'Let me take this speck out of your eye,' when all the time there is a plank in your own eye? You hypocrite. First take the plank out of your own eye, and then you will see clearly to remove the speck from your brother's eye." All right? That's Matthew chapter 7, verses 3-5. And here's why that applies here. The media, the Democrats, the Justice Department under Merrick Garland, they spent years pointing at the speck in Donald Trump's eye. They screamed about classified documents. They screamed about national security. They screamed about the rule of law. But when the plank in their own eye got exposed, when Joe Biden's own voice came out admitting the same thing, suddenly it was about memory. Suddenly it was about being sympathetic. Suddenly the rules didn't apply. The speck in the plank, that's the whole story right there. They were so busy trying to remove the speck from Trump's eye that they never dealt with the plank in their own. And now the plank is on tape for the whole world to hear. And for those who aren't spiritual, here's the life wisdom. When you hold others to a standard you won't apply to yourself, you don't just hurt them, you destroy your own credibility. The double standard always gets exposed eventually, always, and you can hide it for a while. You can use power and money and legal teams to keep the truth buried, but the truth has a way of surfacing. And when it does, the damage to your reputation is worse than if you had just been honest from the beginning. The lesson is simple. Hold yourself to the same standard you hold others, because if you don't, the receipts will come out and they will show everybody exactly who you are. So let me ask you, family, after hearing what Joe Biden said on those tapes, after watching the media stay silent, after seeing the justice system treat two people completely different for the same thing, do you still believe the system is fair? Do you still trust the media to tell you the truth? And do you still think the rules apply to everybody the same way? Let me know in the comments. I want to hear from you. Hit the like button, share the video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on those post notifications. Spread that peace, love, and positivity, and let the love supersede the hate, family. I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.